Hey, 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 good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining me tonight on my Live to Inspire Facebook Live session. This is your host, Jess Dawn Love, and I am thrilled to have you join us this evening for an incredible and inspiring and transformative conversation. Today, we are diving into a powerful journey of transitioning from being involved from a spiritual cult to becoming a child of God. Our guest tonight has an extraordinary story to share, one that is filled with moments of deep reflections, one that is filled with challenges, one that is filled with so many spiritual awakenings. And so through her journey, they found faith, she's found hope, and a renewed sense of purpose, and they are here to share their story and experiences and insights with us. And so I'm so glad that you decided to join us. And so our guest is going to be sharing some pivotal moments, some transformational things that she experienced that has led our guest to embrace her Christianity. And so I welcome my guest, my new friend, Mercy Miles Jenkins. Mercy, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much
Thank you. Thank you.
for having me this evening. I hope you can hear me well. It's a
Mhm,
pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Dawn, for inviting me on your platform to share about my testimony from
mhm.
cult to kingdom.
All right. Awesome. We are actually going to go ahead and get started. We have about an hour to talk. So let's just go ahead and let's just get right into it. Can you kind of share a bit of, your background and how you, just kind of initially became to live in that particular lifestyle?
Oh, absolutely. And so I actually found the cult. I'm born and raised from London, England. So I'm a Londoner. So
Mhm,
while I was living in London as a new Christian, as a new babe in Christ, really probably about 9 months thereabouts, I had a deep hunger to learn as much as I can about God. And I learned very quickly that I was called to be a prophet. And so I would hear the voice of God speak to me. And
mhm,
I found that very soon, you can't really share that with a lot of people at the time. But what that did is it really pushed me to say, God, I need a mentor.
mhm,
Mentor. I need a company of prophets, people that's like me. In other words, there was a a sense of I need to belong somewhere. Okay,
mhm,
and we've all felt that feeling, like I'm out of all sorts, and I'm a misfit, if you will, and I need to find my tribe, find my people, which is all good.
mhm,
But that is how I found the cult. I found this particular group. In fact, me finding them was really the Lord setting me up. Now that it's all said and done, and we can look back. But I know that I know that I know that God had sent me to them. And so there was an event that the Lord had told me to go to. And I remember going up the steps to this very particular event, and the Lord said it was prophesied before the foundations of the earth that I would be there. So I knew it was super important.
mhm.
And they had us do an activity. One activity was you had to have a prayer partner. So as I prayed and said, God, who's this person? The Lord showed me an easel, right? A whiteboard easel. So I knew this woman in front of me was a teacher and a trainer. And God
Mhm,
let me know that will be the connection. And so that was the connection. She became
mhm.
a mentor. And then later, I joined her church.
Oh, wow. And so what actually drew you to her? What was your relationship like with her, when you first
Oh,
started talking with her?
she was all good. I mean, like it was seriously though. When you're feeling lonely, isolated, I was a single parent, single mom with three small boys. Like they were
Mhm,
back to backstair step, like 3, 2, 1. Um, I was going through a separation with their dad. So there was a lot of things that was going on. And this is what happens. This is one of the reasons why people join cults, right? Is because you're in crisis mode. You're in survival mode. Your defense mechanisms are down. There's a lot that's going on. So I needed a lot of support at that time. At that particular time, I needed a lot of emotional healing, a lot of emotional support. And so they provided that. I mean, they was good. They was accessible. If I needed to call them, and of course, from the UK to the US, there's like a 5 hour, sometimes a 6 hour difference. They'd always answer my call. They'd always spend the time that I needed, and they were just loving, kind, and still are loving, kind, and gift people. Many of you know about narcissism, and one of the traits of narcissism is love bombing. And so love bombed me good, like really good. And as you know, after they got you, there's no love no more, right? There's no more love. So that's how I got drawn in, because I had a need, an emotional need for healing, and they provided a lot of support that really grounded me at that time.
And so I guess, with all the love and the support, those are things that resonated with you, because you were going through such a tough time. You were having such a tough time, and like the gifts and the everything for you and your children, I assume, all of those things were just drawing you in, not knowing, what her actual motives were. Correct?
Absolutely. And this is the key, is understanding that people have motives. See, I was very naive, right? I just came to the kingdom very naive. So I just thought everyone just moved with a pure heart, and that was it. Didn't understand that, the Bible tells us all of this, though. It's not like it's hidden from us, that there are false prophets, there are false apostles, false teachers, that there are wolves in sheep's clothing. Like, it's there. It's not like it's not there, but I hadn't experienced it yet. So I didn't know. I didn't understand that there was hidden motives. These motives were hidden from me. And it's interesting because just like any new relationship, sometimes there are red flags, right?
Right.
But
Right.
your condition and your state, and just hoping for the best. I was willing, right? I was willing to ignore the red flags. I was so willing, because I didn't want to disrupt this new relationship. I didn't want to disconnect. I felt like they were part of my family. And so I ignored the red flags. They were there. It's not like they were there, but I wasn't strong enough because of my mental state at the time to step out.
So let me ask you this. While you were drawn to like this group of people, or this young lady, can you like kind of describe some of the experiences, some of the things that that happened while you were there, some of the things were you involved in, while you were drawn to it? And I want to kind of, before you answer that, I want to kind of back up a little bit. I want you to kind of give a little background to the people of exactly what a spiritual cult is. Can you kind of give them a background of, I probably should have started off with that question just to kind of lay the foundation of what an actual spiritual cult is.
Yeah, and so these are, so what you're asking for is identity markers. How can we actually identify them? Okay, and so you can identify them by their doctrines. Okay, so if their doctrines are in opposition, and it can be very slick. So what we're talking about, we're not talking about. Some people will say like church hurt. We're not even talking about church hurt, and I don't even like to use the word church hurt. Right, the Holy Spirit do not associate my church with hurt. Okay, so we'll put that to a side. But we are talking about an organized group of people who are systematically controlling and dominating and using fear-based thinking or fear-based activities to actually culturize people to be in obedience, like 100% obedient to them, not to God, but to them. And how they can set that culture up is by a few things. For example, everything that I say, you can trust and believe is God. It's come from God. And so she would say that she was the oracle of God. She was the actual embodiment of the word of God. So what that does is it means that she had an ability to reduce the power of the written word. Okay, so now we're talking about positioning. So once somebody has positioned themselves, being very closely linked to being God, like God, okay, and can override any argument or debate of what the word says, because I get Rhema, and what I'm hearing Rhema is more important and supersedes the word of God. So that philosophy in itself will actually prevent people from actually obeying God. Because the mindset is, God, you said that my teacher, my mentor, my trainer, my spiritual mom. And if she says this, you're obviously so, in other words, people's defense mechanisms are down and they're open to receive any suggestion that is made. That's the dangerousness of it. Any suggestion that is made. Okay. And so some of the suggestions are, you can't go on vacation. Okay. You've got to isolate yourself from your family. Okay. These are some of the markers that most people know. If you know of a cult, one of the things they're going to do is attack your family. But they're not just going to attack your family in the way that we think. It is very manipulative and it's very scriptural. I heard this morning that God said that there's something going on with your family and that they're trying to stop you from going higher in God. Okay, because your desire is to go higher in God, you're going to do anything possible. You can be like, oh, is that the case? Oh, then my family's the enemy, right? And we see how quickly men do that in domestic violence relationship. Okay, your friends and family are saying, get out this relationship, and he only has to say, I think they're against me. I don't think they want us to be happy together. And the next thing she's thinking, they're after my happiness. They're jealous of me and my husband, okay, or my partner, okay? So it's manipulative tactics that are used to break off the bond with family relationships. Once that happens and they're isolated, they don't have the friends, okay, because you're acting weird and spooky, and they've already told you your friends are your enemies. They've told you your family is your enemies. And so now what do you have left?
Yeah. Them.
Them. They're now the savior, and red flags and all, you're going to have to love them.
Yeah.
Because you're now afraid of the outside world. You're afraid of the outside world. So where you could have got some help, you can't get some help. When it's going sour, you can't, because the fear mongering is now a prison in your own mind that you don't want to be free. Okay, that's how people remain in cults. So if you see a lot of fear in speaking, they would rebuke and correct openly all the time. There is nothing with an open rebuke. Okay, open rebukes are in the New Testament. Okay, open rebukes are important and they have their place. I am not minimizing its necessity. Okay, but what I'm saying is that these are extremes. So they use it to the extreme. Well, the ill motive of tearing down your self-esteem, your confidence, make you to feel like you're nothing. You can never get it right. There's nothing you can do to be right. And so they would ruin your reputation. I call it character assassination. They would assassinate your character, kill off till you don't feel like you can get up. Now that's another level of your defense mechanism that's low.
Wow.
Yeah.
That.
So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So these are the mental plays that are going on while ministry is happening, while people are acting friendly and being very lovey and very kind. These are the various devious things that's happening behind the scenes that is actually targeting the psyche. It's the psyche, it's the psychological warfare that is going on when you know, okay, I'm getting beaten up, but then I've been told. So another one they would say is don't take it personal. And don't take it personal was like a doctrine. In other words, that was used to control and keep people where they could not retaliate. They couldn't get angry. They couldn't say, why is this happening to me? Every time, I'm in this place, but I don't seem to be growing. I don't seem to be prospering in my life. And they would say, don't take it personal. Oh, baby girl, don't take it personal. It's just a lot. He's just teaching you something. Meanwhile, you separate, and one of the things they would do is separate parents from their children. So they would not only isolate you from your family, but once you're in the cult, they would separate children from their parents. That's one bond that nobody has no business in tampering or touching.
Right.
They would destroy that. And they would also destroy the bond between the husband and the wife. So marriages. So they didn't just cut people off from their relatives and family in the outside world, but once you got in and you submitted, then they also came after your marriage and your relationship with your children, because the mindset is that I need worship. The leaders need worship. And the only way to get worship is to make sure that you are conflicted with yourself and that you are undistracted and that you're giving them your undivided attention. You are devoted like a zombie, each person being a zombie. It's not good enough that people are families and they're happy and they come to church. No, every single person is given energy of worship. And this is to sustain the leader. They cannot live or be sustained without the worship of others. And so they are at the center of attention and they need it in order to feel secure within themselves. This is the fantasy world that they're in. Okay, they're in the fantasy world of loving themselves more than anybody else. Okay, see in that scenario, children and spouses, like, if you love people, you wouldn't do that to people.
Right.
But there was no real love for people. There was only love for self.
Wow. I don't even know what else to say after that. That is so interesting. And I'm curious, did they try to do that with you and your children? Was that something?
Yes, absolutely.
What were some of the things they did with you, with you?
So one of the things is we wanted to go on a vacation to see my husband's family. They were agents, so we wanted to reconnect and see them. We hadn't seen them for years because of the cult, right? And his grandmother would always tell me, it's a cult. I don't like her, but this, when you're in the cult, you hear that language all the time. So you're accustomed to people opposing what you're doing. So you never really look at what you're doing. You just like defensive. They prepared us. They told us that the world won't like us because, well, we're the true Christians, right? So you could never really receive it. So anywho, we decided that we wanted to spend time with family, and she was in prayer, and she was like, which this should never be a case. Like, nobody should be able to say whether or not you can't spend time with your family. Okay. God said, in fact, she would say the creators. I don't know why, but they call God the creators. Okay. So that's another red flag, right? The creators. Okay. The creator said that you can't go. And then I'm like, what? I mean, I was so broken. I would pray to God and say, God, how can you do this to me? This ain't right, blah, blah, blah. But of course, you can't take it personal, so you can't really do anything about it. And then she came back another day and said, God said that you can go, but you can't take your children with you. And so that's what they would do. So now they're taking on parental responsibility for your children. There's separation between mother and child, which is going to create more distrust, more disunity, and more fragmentation in the family, right? In the family, okay? But they don't care. The whole point is, if you go out into the world, we might not get you back. And this is what I didn't understand. I understood afterwards. Her fear of releasing us to go on vacation is that we might experience what normal families experience. Like, this is great. The world is not against us. This is a cool place. Like, why are we not doing this more often?
Mm-hmm.
And so she was afraid of losing us. And so that's why she was like, only one of you can go. Oh, it can go this way, not that way. Because she did not want to lose control over our lives. She needed to control our lives so that she can live. Just like a vampire needs blood.
Mm-hmm.
She needed our life force in order to feel secure as a leader. She could allow anybody to leave. And those are one of the things. When people say they want to leave a cult, you already know what's going to happen. They're going to do everything in their power to make sure you don't leave. Leaving a cult is not an easy thing. Just like leaving a toxic spouse is not an easy thing. They won't let you go.
Mm-hmm.
They'll pull out all the stops, say they're going to do all the things. We're going to make all the changes. They will not allow you to just walk out easily. I remember one family wanted to leave. They called the police. They had to get a police escort. That was the only way they could get out, was get a police escort to come and remove them, because they were that afraid of leaving their presence. They couldn't just get out the door. Mm-hmm. And so they had a way of creating community. And in creating community, they had a way of creating disunity in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is another way of how they operate.
Mm-hmm.
They create the community, and then they get everybody to snitch on each other so that you can trust anybody. Okay. And what that does is, it doesn't allow you to trust anyone enough to say, hey, listen, I think we need to escape. Oh no, nobody's escaping with nobody. Nobody's going to talk to anybody about an escape plan, because you already don't trust them.
Right, right.
But yet you're still family and community, but there's nobody that you can trust, because everybody's looking out for their own interests, and nobody wants to get in trouble, because there's so much fear in the atmosphere, so much fear. And one of the things is that we live together. So that's another red flag. Okay. So we live together and commune together. Okay. And so this is another way that they were able to control. Okay. Control your finances. They didn't want you to work, because when we're living like Jesus did, discipleship, and we're all pulling together. Okay. And so this is how they managed to really have full access and full control. But there was those that wasn't living in the house, but were just as controlled.
Wow.
And even to today are still just as controlled. Mm-hmm. Because of the access to the psyche.
I was gonna say, and I think me and you kind of talked about this the other day. I was asking you, like, people don't realize that these things are real, you know, because some people are like naive that these things actually go on. You know, what do you say to people who thinks that way? You know, like, these things are actually live, real, because you actually lived it. But like you say, you know, you have people that are so naive that they don't believe none of this stuff goes on behind doors, or people can't do this to other people. You know, you have to be mentally strong. And, you know, why didn't you get out of it just like that? What do you say to those people, you know, that try to discredit things, you know, similar things like this?
Well, It does happen. And I thank God that Jesus talked about it. He didn't want his disciples to be deceived. He let them know when you go on that 2 by 2, you're going to meet people that's going to flog you. In the synagogues, when you go out 2 by 2, you're going to meet wolves in sheep's and clothing. You're
Yeah.
going to meet them. They're ravenous. They're violent. They are those that will destroy your soul. You're going to meet them. And when you meet them, know that they're not going to look like darkness, right? They're going to
Mm.
masquerade in light. So he did warn us. And so we see it, but we just read those scriptures until we have an encounter experience. Hopefully, for the viewers that's watching now, they don't have to go through this experience. They can just know that it's real, that it happens, that there are those individuals, and that they come in all different shapes and forms, right? Like I said, you might say, well, they must have to all commune together. Not true. There are some cults that people go home and live jobs and they come back to the cult and they're just as controlled. Okay. They attend that church service maybe 6 days a week. They don't have the ability to think for themselves because they don't have enough room to process what God is saying. Is always what they're saying and what they're feeding into them. Right. And so, and that's one way of actually brainwashing. In the same way, the military uses it. You know, people come in, and this is what they used to teach. They used to teach, God gave us a plan. It's an immersive experience. It's a 6 months program, detox program. These are the words they're using, right? You know, you come in and you be changed, delivered, healed. You be ready for ministry because they considered it a ministerial home. In other words, these are young people that's emerging in ministry to become ministers, and so we are getting you all ready to do the work of the Lord, which sounds beautiful and it sounds very noble, right? So their process was, which is another red flag, they would get the women to cut their hair. Okay, and but she never cut her hair. She had long hair, but she never cut her hair.
Why was the cutting necessary?
Because it would bring shame and dishonor, and it would remove your sense of identity. Okay, and so you know, your hair is your glory. So once they removed that, it was like Samson. You didn't have the strength anymore for them to now say, well, we don't like the way you dress. Okay, it was just another avenue to actually shape and mold you and have control over your personhood. And that's what that was, so that everyone could look uniform. They could all uniformly look the same. Okay. And that was the goal. The goal was to remove a sense of identity, a sense of self, so that they could break the will of the person and be in control over their life. Okay. Get them to obey. If you can cut your hair, not based on what you want, right, but based on what somebody else said, that God said. So anytime they say God said, right, you have no armor against that. There's nothing. You're armorless. You've got no power against it. So the cutting of the hair, the changing of the clothes, they would come after my accent. They would come after how I ate. You know, I eat with a knife and fork. These little things, I didn't realize there was attacking, and they would associate it with, that's your past. You've left Egypt. God doesn't want you. So everything was spiritualized. It was spiritualized, and this is why we say spiritual abuse, not church. They would use the scriptures to spiritualize their intent, their ill intent, and ill motives to control, to manipulate, and dominate, and to rule over man. And that's a demonic energy. It's a demonic agenda, and it's satanic. It's not of God at all. At all. And so this group of people wasn't just cultish in the terms of just having a cult leader and just oppressing people. And it was more than that. It was more than that, because they operated in the occult, saying Jesus and everything else, but they also operated in the occult. Okay. And so I have seen them operate in very dark powers, very dark powers with principalities, and get their own way. I've seen people be afflicted with cancer, people's houses been burnt down. I've seen people's marriages been destroyed. All sorts of things I've seen happen to people when they left. And it would always be, see, God told them not to leave.
Wow. Wow. Mm. I think Mercy actually froze on us. Um, but we're going to bring her back in. I think this is such an imperative, conversation. Um, Interesting how this is happening while she's actually speaking about this. So let me see here. Yeah, so we've been actually talking, and I'm waiting for her to come back in into our session a little bit about what we've been talking about. We've basically been talking to Mercy Miles, and she's come in and um, she's been sharing her life story on how she actually lived in a cult. And she shared some of the experiences um, that she dealt with, you know. And so I am going to reach back out to her because I think this is so interesting how what just happened. You know what I mean? Everything that she was sharing is stuff that we needed to hear. Everything that that she shared with us, it's something that that needs to be heard. And so yeah, we're going to get her right back in, and so she can finish sharing her story because this is interesting. um and so if you're just joining us, again, I'm waiting for it because how about her screen froze, and she was sharing, how she met this woman, and this woman, welcomed her into, um, I know, come back in. I see, come back in, Mercy. Um, and so she was sharing her story about how she met this young lady, and this lady really took her in, and unfortunately she brainwashed her and all of this other things, and it was just interesting, some of the things that had happened. So actually she's on her way back in, and so we're going to continue to interview. This really is interesting because this is kind of like never happened before, like during the interview. um, I don't know. It's just like I've been doing some, bringing some really good guests on, and they have been really sharing some powerful, powerful, powerful stories. And so, yeah, she's going to come back in, and we're going to continue our interview. In the meantime,
Hi.
Are you coming back in?
Dawn?
Yes, come on back in.
Hi, Dawn. It's not like this time.
Really?
Which is
Okay. So she may not be coming back in. So we may be doing a part two for this, because she was saying that it will not let her back in due to Wi-Fi. So I will share with you that after this discussion tonight, I will be bringing her back for a part two, because her story is very, very interesting, and I think there are those that really need to hear her story. You want to try one more time, Mercy? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. I believe that you know, a lot of times when we do share information such as this, and there are people that needs to hear information such as this, I think, of course, the enemy gets mad and it ruffles his feather. But I just believe that this is a time where we're going to be raised up as Christians to, pray for our earth, pray for the people around us, and pray for those that are experiencing this type of life. Because just like Mercy was saying earlier, these people show up in wolf's clothing. These people show up as individuals that you know. These people show up as the kindest, most nicest people, but yet they have other ulterior motives. And so I have Mercy on my phone and she's trying to get back in, but unfortunately, it's not happening, is it?
It's not happening.
Okay. So while she's trying that, I do want to take a pause break while she's trying to come back in. I do want to take a pause break and let everyone know that you've seen my Facebook post about my book that's coming out July 1st. It's called Embracing Change, Trusting God Through the Transitions of Life. We have that coming out. I also have my book signing scheduled for August 24th. So details are forthcoming about that. And then I'm also having my first women's conference. It's going to be October 19th. So those are some things that we have coming up. And so I'm just excited about what God is doing. I'm excited about Live to Inspire. I really thank you all for coming in tonight and spending time with us. I'm going to check in with Mercy one more time. And she's coming back in. She just popped up in my studio. Let me see if she's going to. Are you able to come back in, Mercy?
Yeah.
It's not bringing you in all the way.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to remove you and you just come back in. Are you ready?
What I want to do is we'll just do part two because I sense that I need more intercessors to pray
Okay.
for the things that I'm sharing. It just needs it's a sensitive matter, so it just needs team to really stand behind it.
Okay. All right. So we are still having just say it's still, yeah, it's still not able to come through. Yep. Okay. So what we'll do, everyone, thank you again for tuning in tonight. We're gonna reschedule this, and we're gonna finish this interview because it was such an amazing interview that was happening. And so, due to technical reasons, because she can't get back on, we are going to reschedule this for next Thursday. So look for Live to Inspire next Thursday. I'm your girl, Just Dawn Love. Love you all. Thank you. I don't know what happened.